Alright guys, welcome back to the episode here. Today we're going to be talking about the new Xbox Series X and the new PlayStation 5. Now I could have uploaded a video talking about these two consoles a lot earlier, but I wanted to wait until all the specs were confirmed, all the release dates were confirmed, and everything was completely confirmed and done. So I waited, and the time is right now. So personally, I'm going to start off. I am a fan of Xbox more than PlayStation. I'm gonna get that out the way. I prefer Xbox more. I just think it's more, better, more easier to use, and like the whole layout of, especially inside the Xbox. Now, me actually owning a PlayStation 4 along with the Xbox Series, not Xbox, but the Xbox X. I could definitely compare the two straight from there, and I just think the Xbox is better. That's my personal opinion. That's with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One X. Now we got this Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Now, first off the box, you can see the pictures of both of them here. The left is the PlayStation 5 with their controller, and you got the right with the Xbox Series X. Now, even though the Xbox Series X is my favorite console, it doesn't mean I want to be nice towards it. So if I find something that I don't like, I will talk about it, and I may even criticize it. That's the same with the PlayStation 5. Now, starting off with the whole design. Now, there's many jokes and memes about both of them, especially with the Xbox Series X, but it's along with the PlayStation 5 as well. PlayStation 5 has been known to be talked about saying it looks like a router, like a Wi-Fi router or a book. Now, I could definitely see a book and all of the Wi-Fi routers and stuff. I can definitely see that. It's definitely a more futuristic design. They're definitely going out the way, making a whole new design and making it, more futuristic outside. Now with the controller, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they kind of took the design of the Xbox controller and kind of fused it with the PlayStation 4 controller. They do look very much similar. It's not really as much curvy as the PlayStation 4 controller actually was. It now looks like more like an Xbox One controller, but not identical, of course. Now the Xbox Series X controller, I think it's the same. It's basically the same. There's a more flatter design, the newer D-pad, and I think there's some grips on the back, and that's about it. It's not really as, I guess modern. Not modern, but I guess, very pop. It doesn't really pop a lot. So it's very plain, straightforward Xbox One controller. Compared to the PlayStation 5 controller, which lights up and all that cool extra bull that it actually does. Now with the Series X, console itself design, well, it's been known to be joked about. It looks like a mini refrigerator, and I can definitely see that. Most definitely can see that. But I would prefer the Xbox Series X design over the PS5 just because of the fact that it's smaller. Believe it or not, it's a lot more smaller. The Xbox Series X is the size of an Xbox One standing up. Now, that shows that it's not that big. The PS5, on the other hand, is almost twice the size of the Series X, which is completely insane, and it's completely oversized, because not a lot of people is going to have, people usually put their, the consoles in their little cubbies or something, to have a little own designated area. But when you have to make a whole new design for a console that's completely huge for no reason at all, it doesn't make sense at all. But that is completely fine. Me personally, I would prop my Xbox Series X above my desk or on the TV stand up behind me. PS5 would obviously have to be on the TV stand by itself, just because it would take up a lot of room just on the desk itself. But besides that, now we can jump into the specs and all of that. Overview, summary. The Xbox Series X is more powerful. Surprisingly, it doesn't really look more powerful now, does it? You would expect the more futuristic, the more, aggressive looking console to be more powerful, But no, the Series X is more powerful with the straight refrigerator box. Makes a whole lot of sense, right? Sure does. But it's not by a big difference. We're not talking about, the PS5 has 4K, the Xbox has 8K. No, They both support 8K support. And I mean, that's just about it. Now we can jump into the exact specs here. Alright, so with the Xbox Series X specs here, we have a 12 teraflops with a variable rate shading and also a hardware accelerated DirectX ray tracing, which is kind of a big improvement over the Xbox One. We also got a quick resume for multiple games, which was something I completely love. Yeah, this is one of my most favorite things about the Series X. It's basically, if you don't know what that is, let's say you open up a game such as, let's say, Red Dead Redemption 2. You open the game, load it up and all that good stuff, but you say, I want to play another game, you know? You open up Forza Horizon. You open it up, load it up and all that good stuff. You can switch between back and forth without going through that loading screen. You can switch back to Red Dead, start back where you've resumed off, and do the same thing back to Forza. You don't have to go through the loading screen and none of that good stuff. I believe you can go up to multiple different types of games. I'm not too sure how many, but it will be pretty interesting to see, and actually how the Xbox can handle, you know, running about 5 games at once, which is going to be pretty amazing, because that's exactly what it's doing, is running multiple games at once, which is pretty powerful. The PlayStation doesn't have that feature. I wonder why. Now, if we talk about the Xbox Series X specs and power here, it's built around a 3.8 GHz octa-core AMD Zen 2 CPU and a 52-core GPU compatible of a processing 12 teraflops. Now, all of this stuff, you know, is confusing, especially if you don't know your consoles, and especially if you know your graphic cards. Usually, if you, a person that built your PC, you would know everything about this type of stuff, because usually they have some of the same parts. Just the PC can hold more powerful parts. But if you don't know what this basically the stuff is, I'll give you a brief summary. This stuff is usually what makes the console run a lot quicker, smoother, and looks better. These are the graphic cards, the specs, and the power. It also has features of 16 gigabytes and it also can have up to 16 gigabytes and a GDDR6 RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD card, which is pretty nice to have. SSD is usually the storage. Now, personally, I love having a 1 terabyte, maybe even more, in a console, because the fact that games build up a lot of storage, especially if you have games such as Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which is about 80. No, my bad. It's like around almost 140 gigabytes just by itself. Remind you, that's 900 gigabytes in a teraflop plus 100 more to equal the whole 1 terabyte. Now, so this one game takes up 120 plus, including expansion packs. You would need that 1 terabyte for sure, instead of the half terabyte, which would run up pretty quickly. Now, when we get to the graphics, displays, and all that stuff, of course, it can have 4K display. This series, the Xbox X, has 4K display, so I wasn't surprised for that to be transferred onto. It also has 60 FPS and a lower resolution of 120 FPS. Now, if we're talking about the GPU, can also support a ray tracing, NVIDIA's RTX capable of GeForce cards, and SSD promises much faster loading times. Now, with this whole new SSD, they will be coming with more faster loading times than the previous Xbox console. So it's not only are you running multiple games at once, but you're also loading those games a lot more quicker, maybe twice as faster. Now, that alone is a very key factor. Now, along with the Xbox Series X, there's also going to be another Xbox that's coming out with a Series S, which is the more digital and less powerful version, with having capable of rendering on 144p 60 rather than 4K like the Xbox Series X can, and a less RAM of a 512 gigabyte SSD, which is not good at all. Personally, I think and consoles shouldn't even come with less than 1 terabyte of SSD and storage and all that stuff, because what's the point? You can only be having 3 huge games at once. A friend that I know has a regular Xbox Series S with less than 1 terabyte, and he only has 4 games just because of how quickly that space can run up, especially when there's an update, because that update adds more storage to the game. Another key feature about the Xbox Series X is the backward compatibility. Now there is a little kind of, I guess, downside to the whole backwards compatibility, that it won't be able to run every single Xbox 360 game. It'll be able to run at least a few, more than a few, half of, I'd probably say like at least 65% of 360 games, I'll estimate, but it's games over 20 years ago that you will be able to play, which is pretty amazing if you ask me. And one last key factor, or I guess pretty cool thing about the Series X is there's something called a smart delivery. So let's say you have a game that you previously had on your older Xbox One, and it did it, you know how some say Series X, or not Series X, but an Xbox One X compatibility or something like that. Well, if you get the Series X, every single game that you had will now be upgraded to a sense where the game is more fit to run on that Series X, so it can be better graphics, better performance, and a lot more better overall. As soon as you do get your Xbox Series X and sign into your Microsoft account, it will automatically download every game but the best version of it, so where you can get the best performance and the best gameplay. Now with the PlayStation 5, is what some call it, the tall Titan. Now it is pretty tall indeed, and it's pretty wide when you lay it down. But as far as the whole looks and stuff, I think it is not the worst looking. I think it does look better than the PlayStation 4, but not by far. It's just a very futuristic, modern type of sleek design is what they try to go with here. And it's completely fine. I mean, it's okay. It's just the fact that one downside with this design is the fact that you have to unscrew in order to, make the console stand up and go into a lay down position. So where it's laying down, you have to unscrew the bottom of it, as you can see there, the little circle thing in the bottom that's holding up the console right now. You have to unscrew that and put it on the side, screw it in on the side of the PlayStation 5 here. And you have to make sure it's completely tight and put all the tools back inside where it's supposed to be. Now I think that's a pretty lot of stuff to do just to put the console in the landscape position, laying down. And all you can do with the Xbox Series X is just tilt it over. Now something that this console has in common with the new Series X is that they can both run up to 4K, which is pretty nice, and they run up to, I'm not sure if it can run up to 8K or not. Something that they have in common is that they both have a digital version of their main console, but the PlayStation 5 doesn't have a whole new name for it like the Xbox has. The Xbox has the Xbox Series X, which is the main one, and the Xbox Series S, which is the digital one. Now the PlayStation is the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 digital. That's what it's called. Well, I'm not really, wasn't looking forward to them making a whole new name for it. Xbox is usually known for making 20,000 different names for their consoles. Now, starting off with the specs and power of the PlayStation 5, it's built around an octa-core AMD Zen 2 CPU with a custom rating on GPU. Now, like I said, if you know what that is, basically, summary, it makes the console run a lot smoother, more performance, and better gameplay for players. Now, it stacks up very closely to the Xbox Series X. Like I said, the specs and powers are still pretty close, but the Series X does take the crown as far as performance. Now, unlike the previous PlayStation consoles, such as the PS4, which had hard drives and all of that good stuff, well, bad stuff I'll say, the PlayStation 5 have SSD storage, which is the same thing that the Xbox Series X has now. And as far as, they say it's more significant and more improved and more better, so we shall see how it exactly is. Now, personally, with my having the PS4, I would say the hard drive performance and storage wasn't as bad. I didn't really see a difference between my Xbox X storage and the PlayStation 4 while it was downloading games and all that stuff. But They say that the SSD is more better and more smoother, so we shall see about that. With this new SSD being carried onto the PlayStation 5, they said the load time should be a lot more better. Now, as far as loading games and everything, I would say that the Xbox took that crown when on the last gen consoles against the PS4 and the Xbox One. Now I'm not too sure how that'll stack up. They both, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, are both saying that they have stacked up their game as far as loading times, but when it comes down to the release dates of both of these consoles, we can actually check it out and see which console actually is a lot more better and better, smoother, and loads up games a lot more quicker. Now, of course, like we were all expecting, the PlayStation 4 backward compatible games can be ran on the PlayStation 5. But games older than the PlayStation 4 cannot be ran on the PlayStation 5, which is something that Xbox Series X can do. Meaning, you cannot play a PlayStation 3 game on the PlayStation 5, but on the Xbox Series X, you can run an Xbox 360 game on the new Series X. That's a pretty, big difference there, and a big deal for some players, because some people like the older games. That's just their personal reference, and that's, may guide them to which console they actually want. Now, as far as the whole controller design of the PlayStation 5 that we talked about earlier in the beginning of this video, they call it the DualShock 5. Now, it has different features such as vibrations and all that good stuff, like different feedback and haptic feedback and stuff. You know how when you if you have an iPhone, of course, you know how when you customize, I guess your home screen, it gives you a little vibration on the screen, or you get that in different times you do it, the little vibration on your screen when you touch something on your iPhone. Yeah, that's haptic feedback. That same feeling it will be on this PlayStation 5 controller, which I would say would be pretty nice, because I personally like the vibration and the whole feel of the controller being alive and with you inside the gameplay. Now, as far as the release dates and the cost, Series X will be available on the November 10th, and the Series X costing $500. Now, the PlayStation 5 will also be costing $500, but on a release date of November 12th. So, I guess 2 days earlier may make Xbox players a little bit more happier. Now, as far as we're talking about the digital side of these consoles, the Xbox Series S will cost $300, and the PlayStation 5 digital will cost $400. So, I guess the extra $100 for the PlayStation digital version than the Xbox Series S digital version. But it may persuade some people, but yet again, the main view on these two big consoles and companies is the main consoles here, and that is the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Now, as far as which one would I get, of course I would get the Xbox Series X, just because of the fact that I'm more familiar, and I've been with this whole, I've been an Xbox fanboy, not fanboy, well, I would say a little bit, yeah, for about a few years and growing up. Now, I recently got a PS4, like I said and mentioned a few times, around 3 years ago, and personally, I wasn't too, it wasn't as bad, as people say it was. Both consoles are pretty good. I'm pretty sure the PS5 and the Xbox Series X will be very high competitors as far as performance and sales, and these consoles will sell a lot. A lot of people are pre-ordering them. They already did, and they're selling out like crazy, and a lot of these companies are not be able to keep up with their pre-orders, which sucks, but at the same time, it shows that these consoles are really changing the whole how we view gaming. Now, I really would like to know which console would you choose and exactly why. Now, I personally don't think I would get the PS5 just because I don't see a big reason for me to do so. But that Series X is going to be here mighty soon. But let me know down in the comment section down below which console would you take and why. And if you guys like the video, of course, hit the like button, subscribe, and of course share it with all your friends. Let them know this video and let them know which one they choose. Besides from that, that's about it. I'm gonna catch you guys next time. Peace.